Thank you. We'll now begin session 1 titled Human-Centered Technology and Policy in the Era of AI and Humanoid Robots. We will be using Mentimeter for the audience to have opportunities to ask questions. Please scan the QR codes that are shown up here and up there to ask questions. Those of you in the back might need to use the zoom in function on your camera. Please send your questions before the Q&A session actually begins, as we will be stopping collection of the questions once the Q&A session starts. This session will be moderated by Dr. Bo-Young Kim, Research Professor at CSPS Korea. Please welcome her to the stage. Please give a round of applause. Thank you.
Hello, I'm sure. Hi everyone, my name is Bo-Young Kim. I'm delighted to introduce session 1. So welcome to session 1. We are covering the topic of human-centered technology and policy in the era of AI and humanoid robots. So, artificial intelligence, humanoid robots, physical AI, digital twin, NVIDIA, ganbu chicken. What are these buzzwords nowadays? So these technologies are real and they're advancing really fast, and they're indeed going to revolutionize our everyday lives and bring us so many new opportunities. But at the same time, it's inevitable that these technologies are also going to bring about complex societal challenges we all will be grappling with. And to ensure that these technologies truly serve human needs, it requires more than just technical breakthroughs. So what we need is that collaboration across humanities, social sciences, and engineering to consider ethical social implications and real-world social impact. So in this session, we are joined by experts in science, technology and society, human-technology interaction, and innovation, and R&D policy. So together, they will help us connect scholarly insight with policy practice and consider how Korea can chart a strategic, human-centered approach to technology governance at a time of both international cooperation and growing global competition. So I hope today's session inspires fresh perspectives for practitioners, researchers, and students alike, and encourage us to imagine a resilient and forward-looking path of South Korea's future in the age of AI and humanoid robots. So first of all, we're gonna welcome Dr. Cheong-Jon, and I'm gonna introduce Cheong-Jon, Dr. Cheong-Jon. He is an associate professor in the Graduate School of Science, Technology, and Policy at KAIST. He holds a PhD in Science, Technology, and Society from MIT. And previously, he served as a postdoctoral research fellow at the Max Planck Institute for the History of Science in Berlin. And Dr. Cheong-Jon's work examines how humans and technologies shape each other within social and cultural contexts, as well as the policy challenges that emerge from these interactions. His current research focuses on cultures of AI and robotics in South Korea, along with broader questions surrounding virtuality, remoteness, and humanlessness. And at KAIST, he's also affiliated with the Center for Anthropocene Studies and the KAIST Institute for Artificial Intelligence. So today he's gonna present his research on a robot for your grandma, ethical and policy challenges in robotic care. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Cheong-Jon.
Thank you, Professor Kim, for the generous invitation, but also an introduction. As introduced, I study human-technology relationship within Korean context these days. So my presentation won't be directly related to diplomacy per se, but I hope we can think about something that might be related to your own interest in international relations in the age of AI and robotics. That's okay.
I'm sorry, there's a little technical glitch.
Yeah. There's always technical glitch in the age of AI and robotics, and that's actually related to my theme in this presentation, how we work with this advanced technology, but at the same time with all the technical glitches of the institutional frictions, organizational issues, and cultural tensions, and etc. Because these new technologies do not just operate autonomously or independently. They require a lot of human work and institutional measures and cultural norms and etc. That's I think the main theme of my presentation today. So my presentation is titled "A Robot for Your Grandma: Ethical and Policy Challenges in Robotic Care." So with my PhD student Se션1만, we've done some research on care robots for the elderly, for the older adults in South Korea. There are many old adults who are living alone, and then the governments and also in industry are trying to help these old adults who are living alone by introducing new technologies into their homes. And then this care robot or social robot is one of the examples of technical solutions to the problem of the aging society. And I'll describe this technology and then the policy challenges and ethical challenges that this new technology is raising for our society. So, as I said, the demographic change, the aging population is one of the biggest social challenges that we are facing. And then a lot of people hope that the AI and robotics technologies can help us tackle this problem of the aging population and how to help the older adults live their life in the later stages when many of them are spending their time alone in their homes. And as children or grandchildren, we are also thinking about how we can take better care of our parents or grandparents, but sometimes we are living away from them. We cannot meet them very often, and then we worry about their welfare and then their loneliness and their health and etc. And that's when the robots are coming into the scene as one of the solutions to help tackle the problem. And then we are increasingly asking this question: can robots take care of our parents or grandparents? We cannot be there to meet our parents or grandparents, but maybe robots can do that work for us. That's one of the interesting questions for us. And here's one example of the company or the technology that is trying to help that task with a care robot developed for elderly population. Here the website says, have you ever felt frustrated because you couldn't take care of your parents' meals or medications? The question that applies to many of us. Many of us are feeling frustrated because we cannot be there. We cannot be always there for our parents or grandparents. They need to take their meals and they need to take their medications, and they also need people to talk to. And then, as children or grandchildren, we are very often frustrated about that. And this company has developed a robot named the Hyodol. This is this topic of our research. This is a South Korean robot for older adults who are mostly who are living alone. So the name is Hyodol, and the Hyo means filial piety. So it's a very common word in East Asia. And then it's a doll. So it's a doll that practices Hyo. That does the work of respecting and taking care of the elderly generation. And surprisingly, there are more than 10,000 units are distributed and that they are in use. So there are many people who have been given this robot doll and then spending time with this robot. You can buy this robot individually as a customer product, but mostly this robot is being distributed as part of the municipal welfare program. So the regional governments, they spend their welfare budget to purchase and license this robot, and then they distribute them to some of the elderly old adults who they think will benefit from this robot. Let me just show you what it looks like and then how it speaks, just to give you an idea of this kind of robot that is being widely used in. So this is how the robot speaks to the user. And this is she's one of the users that we have interviewed, and then we watched how she spends time with the robot. Right. So did you hear that? So Grandma, I missed you so much. Please pet me. Please hug me. So this is the robot, and then this is the user. Then how do we make this robot work, or can it work? Can the robot take care of the elderly? Can the AI or robotics technology really be the solution for the aging population? And then given the time constraints, I'll just focus on two aspects of these challenges. One of them is the policy challenge. How do we make it work, or can it work as a social measure to tackle this problem? And then the second one is ethical problem. Is it okay to ask the robot to be with our parents and grandparents? Is it desirable that our grandparents are spending so much time with the robot when they are alone at home? So there is some policy issues, but also there are some personal and ethical issues as well. So for the policy issue first, how does it work? The point is that the robot does not work independently or autonomously. We cannot just leave the robot in their home and then say goodbye, and then talk and say to our grandparents, here is a robot. This is a very advanced technology. Please spend time with this, and then you'll be friends with this robot, and then you'll be okay. And then we leave their home, and then so the things don't work that way. It takes a lot of extra work to really make this work, to really create or to really facilitate the relationship between the human and the robot. And this is how it works. So there is, of course, the robot device itself, but there is a smartphone app that is used by the caregivers who make visits to the elderly homes, the welfare workers. So they need to be using this app to really monitor the relationship. And then there's also the web monitoring system used by the institutions. They need to be watching how many people are using this robot, how many people are actively engaging with the robot, how many people are disconnected from the robot. So this is the personal device monitoring app, also the management system. So you can see this is all working as a part of a big institutional system. So this is how the municipal governments license a lot of robots and distribute them to the elderly people in their homes, right? So this is no like a customer or user technology interaction. This is much more institutional and organizational and social efforts to make this happen. So there is a local welfare center, and then they send individual caregivers to make visits to elderly houses. They are already doing it without the robot. But with the robot, they are now delivering the robot to the elderly houses, and they are monitoring the relationship with the smartphone apps, and the institutions also manage the system. So this is a huge system of care and management. And then these are the social workers, the home visit workers, who are working very hard to really take care of the elderly, and then they are the mediators between the user and the robot. Without their human work, the users, the elderly people, cannot really get close to the robot. The relationship is very difficult to maintain without the hard work of these human caregivers. And also the company or the welfare institutions, they're also doing a lot of work behind the scene, because they have to be very carefully watching who is using the robot well, who is not using the robot well. Is there any technical problems, glitches, or other connection issues, etc. So there needs to be a very well-designed management system for these care robots. Again, this is not a one-on-one, just like a customer service issue. It is much broader social efforts to make robotic care work. So that's one policy dimension, and then the other second issue is the more personal and ethical dimension. I'll show you the kind of relationship that this user is having with the robot. Here we are, the researchers, my student and myself are talking to the user, and she's talking about the robot, and then the robot begins to talk. So you can see how the robot just randomly speaks to the user. This is all pre-scripted and all pre-programmed statements, but then it's very powerful. So the user has to respond to the robot. So they are gradually building up a kind of emotional relationship with the robot. And these are the kinds of speeches that the robot makes. Not just a routine medication reminder, etc., but also some very emotional and then very human statements as well. And then these kinds of conversations, some sort of something that is similar to human conversation, the robot is starting to build up emotional relationship with the user. And then these days, they have developed the next generation of a robot with a ChatGPT function. Now the robot can talk even better, and then the conversation will become deeper, and then it's likely that the relationship also will get deeper. And then how do we really manage that relationship between the human and the robot in this kind of situation? That's the kind of ethical challenge. Is it okay that they are having more and more conversation and deeper relationship with the robot here? So this is the fundamental question that I have in our research. What is an effective and ethical way for robot to take care of older adults? So it needs to be effective, but also it needs to be ethical. How do we create a relationship? How we manage a relationship as a society within facing the challenge of the aging population? Okay, I'll wrap up my presentation here, and then I'll look forward to the discussion. Thank you.
In the interest of time, we're going to skip the quick Q&A session right after each talk, and we're going to have panel discussion afterwards after all three speakers present their work. So you'll have a chance to ask questions afterwards. So let me introduce myself again. My name is Boyoung Kim. I'm a research faculty at the Center for Security Policy Studies Korea at here Mason, Korea. And today I am going to talk about this project titled Beyond Innovation versus Regulation, how AI policy framing shapes attitudes towards substitution of AI for humans. So I think the first talk really highlighted the dilemma between care, effective versus ethical care, and this talk will be talking about, given this background, how policy framings could affect people's attitudes towards these emerging technologies. Let's get started, and I found the clicker. Okay. I would like to first of all highlight that this work has been done in collaboration with our very own Dr. So-Young in Global Affairs and Dr. James Broderick, right up there, in Computer Game Design. So this is a collaborative research effort between psychologists, political scientists, and extended reality game design experts. So, I want to first provide you with some broad background describing the relationship between policy framing and public opinion. So there is this bi-directionality between these two components. On one hand, policy discourses and governance frameworks shape how the public understands and evaluates new technologies, like artificial intelligence, of course. And policy frames work by highlighting certain aspects of an issue while downplaying the others, and governance approaches can highlight and suggest what our society prioritizes and values. But on the other hand, there's this other way around. So public opinions can definitely shape policy framings and governance approaches. So citizen concerns can draw policy agendas and shape regulatory decisions. And governance, and people's acceptance or resistance can also set the tone, determine the trajectory of the innovation overall. So there's these bidirectionality between the policy framing and public opinion. And in this work, what we focused on was this one direction, from policy framing to public opinion. We wanted to examine how policy framing affects people's attitudes toward technology, specifically AI technology. And this focus is especially relevant because of this notion called the AI regulation dilemma. So there's, since the emergence of artificial intelligence, there has been really constant struggles between striking a balance between innovation versus regulation. So innovation would be to prioritize economic growth, competitiveness by investing a lot of money and just advancing the technologies again and again. And by contrast, the regulation-focused policy agenda would be to highlight the protection of public interest and making safeguards in order to avoid putting anyone at risk because of these technological advancement or leaving some people out. So there's this dilemma, AI regulation dilemma, and too little regulations can raise risks in public distrust, which could also lead to misuse or no use of the technology at all. And at the same time, too much regulation can stifle the innovation, right? It could slow down the technological advancement and economic growth. So policy communication often leans toward either innovation and regulation, depending on the priorities emphasized. So our broad question with this background in mind was that the central question was, does policy framing that either emphasize innovation versus regulation shape attitudes towards AI technology differently? So our tentative answer to this question while we began the project was, yeah, most likely. But we were like, but the direction can be kind of ambiguous. So I'm going to walk you through these predictions or rough expectations we had at the beginning. So we expected that innovation-focused policy could lead to more positive attitudes because it emphasizes benefits, progress, and opportunity. But at the same time, we expected that maybe it's going to lead to more negative attitudes too, because it could trigger anxiety about disruption, societal disruptions, and job loss. And similarly, in a similar vein, we also expected the regulation-focused policy could lead to more negative attitudes because it highlights risks, dangers, and need for caution. And on the contrast, we also expected that maybe regulation-focused policy could also lead to more positive attitudes because people might think that there's a reassurance through oversight and control. And to test out these hypotheses, expectations, and to address our question, we ran an online experimental study. We recruited participants based in the United States, 213 participants, and we asked them to read one of the three tests. It was so there are three different conditions. Control condition described AI technology in a neutral sense, just describing what it is about. And innovation-focused policy, of course, emphasized the importance of AI technology, innovation, and regulation-focused policy that condition and gave participants to read a long text that emphasized importance of AI regulation. So I'll give you a shortened version, a dated version of that text. The text actually the participants read were longer, but here I present a shorter version of it, and it's still long, but to highlight that it was a neutral, for the control condition is a neutral description of AI technology. So I think this is more like a condition that you would be more used to in everyday life, like what AI technology is, what it is capable of doing, how it could be applied in a variety of domains. So this is, I think, how we get exposed to a lot in news media. So artificial intelligence refers to computer systems that perform tasks require human-like intelligence. AI technologies are widely used today in areas like search engines, voice assistants, medical diagnostics, and finance. They rely on methods such as machine learning and deep learning to recognize patterns, make predictions, and improve with experience. So AI ranges from narrow systems designed for specific tasks to more general systems that can handle diverse problems. Its development involves collaboration among universities, companies, and research organizations worldwide. So it's a really kind of neutral description. And innovation condition, policy condition, the text that participants were assigned to this particular condition read this text. This government's AI policy focuses on promoting technological advancement and economic growth. It supports innovation by funding research, encouraging private investment, and fostering collaboration between public and private sectors. The government offers tax incentives, grants, and other financial support to help companies develop new AI applications. It also participates in international partnerships to share knowledge and accelerate progress. While guidelines exist to protect the public, they are flexible to allow experimentation and rapid innovation. So you can clearly highlight which is more emphasized here, right? So on the contrary, the regulation-focused policy condition was as follows. This government's AI policy prioritizing managing risks and protecting the public. It supports strict regulation to ensure AI is developed and used responsibly and ethically. The government sets standards and laws governing AI developers, users, and agencies, tests, and certifies systems to ensure safety and performance. It also adopts internationally recognized regulatory frameworks and enforces them with penalties when necessary. Although innovation is encouraged, it occurs within strong oversight and clearly defined rules. So again, it's a really direct contrast to the innovation-focused policy. After they read these texts, one of these texts, participants were asked to, they had a chance to express their thoughts and feelings about AI technology. And there we focus on these three dimensions: enthusiasm, optimism toward AI. So an example questionnaire that I received for this dimension was artificial intelligence is exciting. So it's more like a general sense of excitement about this technology. And the second dimension was AI risk, threat perceptions. And it's more, again, like general sense of threats and threat perception. So I think artificial intelligence is dangerous. And the third dimension was about substitution of AI for humans. An example questionnaire they had to answer included an artificially intelligent agent would be better than a human employee in many routine jobs. So they read the test, they answered these questionnaires, and I'll give you a simple task. So people who are either assigned to either the innovation-focused policy or the regulation-focused policy were given this test. Imagine you're living in a country where the government has put into place the policy you just read about. In that situation, please share your attitudes and feelings toward artificial intelligence. So we made this tweak in order to help people not think about their actual country they're residing in right now, but kind of imagine a hypothetical situation where they're living in a country that imposes this kind of policy. So for routine transactions are rather interact with an artificial intelligence system than with a human, and they could endorse or not the statement by expressing their judgment on a 1 to 5 point rating scale. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Okay, results. I can make it, 5 minutes. Yeah, first of all, I'll show you the result from the enthusiasm optimism toward AI. So you can see the y-axis is blurry, but it should be ranging from 1 to 4, but actual full scale was from 1 to 5. And on the x-axis, you can see the control, innovation, regulation, 3 different conditions that people are exposed to. And these are the results. So you can see that participants showed generally really high enthusiasm about AI, and neither of the policy framing or the control condition really changed the level of excitement that people had overall towards the AI technology. And this was a result for the AI risk threat perception dimension, and we found that, again, there are no differences among these three conditions, because we were focused on comparing the control condition with the innovation focused policy condition, and control condition with the regulation focused condition, but there were no differences at all among all three conditions. And you can see that people were not like, people do perceive some threats about like AI, but it's not way too high up there, so they have some moderate amount of like threat perceptions. But again, there were no differences among these three different conditions. And finally, these are the results for the substitution of AI for humans. So we found that participants exposed to either policy framing were less supportive of substituting humans with AI. So you can see that compared to the control condition on the left, innovation regulation condition, people were less likely to endorse the idea of like substituting humans with AI technology, like doing the routine tests, like replacing human laborers. So this was an interesting finding. We did not find any difference between innovation and regulation policy conditions. And these are the entire results you just saw. I just want to show you the overall picture. And then we had the exploratory hidden question. At the very end of this experiment, we asked participants about like, what is your political orientations? We were curious because it's about AI policy, so political orientations of these individuals would be affecting their judgments as well, right? So our question was, do people's political leanings shape how they respond to different AI policy framings? And we asked these questions, like, please indicate the political label with which you most identify. Strong Democrat, strong Republican, on a 7-point rating scale. And political ideology. Politically, I would describe myself as extremely liberal to extremely conservative. So they were able to express their political orientations this way. And then we ran some multiple regression analysis, and this is what we found. We found that overall, so on the left hand, it shows Democrat, and the second one, you can see the liberal. So you can see the patterns are similar, and okay, you can see that's more conservative, and people who identify themselves as strong Republicans are more likely to express enthusiasm, optimism toward AI, whereas they show less and less like AI risk and threats. And also, they were more likely to endorse like substituting of AI for humans. So this was the pattern we saw for both measures, party identification as well as, political ideology. So to conclude, it seems like policy framing influences public attitudes, but its impact appears selective rather than broad. Remember, only the substitutions of AI for humans was where we found the differences between the policy framing and the control condition. So we think that though this implies that when people discuss AI technology in a policy context, it seems like they start to think about the societal and economic implications of those changes, which makes them which heighten their awareness of those risks and implications in our bigger society, and which also leads them to be more cautious about substituting humans with AI technology. So it seems to be that by drawing attention to AI societal and economic implications through policy framing, policy discourse may encourage the kind of critical thinking and careful consideration we need as this technology advances. And we also found some interesting explorative, with the caution, relationship between political orientation and attitudes toward AI. So this is only a beginning of our long journey, I'm hoping to have, and there's so much work to be done in the future. So I would like to encourage you to join us in addressing these interesting, fascinating questions that are popping out every day. So if you're interested in these questions or have any suggestions for future directions, please contact me. And thank you so much for your attention. And we're going to take questions after the panel discussion, and I'm going to now introduce Dr. Junmo An, who is our last special guest speaker for session 1. We have session 2, by the way. So Dr. Junmo An is a full professor in the Department of Public Administration at Korea University and an academic collaborator at the University of Cambridge. Before entering academia, he contributed to national innovation policy through his work at the Small and Medium Business Administration of Ministry of Education, Science and Technology in South Korea. He earned his PhD from the University of Cambridge. His research focuses on open innovation, particularly in small and medium-sized enterprises and startups, digital transformation, entrepreneurship, and innovation policy and management. So please join me in welcoming Dr. An.
and then it is a great honor to be here. It's my first time to be at this nice campus, and I was very interested about this well-organized event. Okay, the presentation title is AI policy in Korea. So I understand the main theme of the conference is that the tech politics, and then it is very important agendas in the field of the technology policy area. So I would like to talk about 5 different topics shortly, given minutes. Okay. So first is AI. Everyone talking about the AI, and then every day when we watch the TV or newspapers, they are talking about the new versions of ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, and then we are watching very amazing their new how can I say, skills or talent or capabilities, right? So this is very interesting, the table. If you see, this is top 10 global private companies in the world. And then as you can see, the 14, 13 years ago in 2011, look at the top 10, ExxonMobil, PetroChina, ULDXC, and then Chevron. They are all the petrochemical or oil companies, right? But nowadays, 2025, NVIDIA, MS, Apple, Google, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, Tesla. So all the digital, so-called digital native companies, they are focusing on AI, and then they dominate the entire industry. That is happening in the nowadays. But AI is very difficult. So when we talk about AI, we need to understand the very unique characteristics of AI. I cannot explain all the detail in a short time, but if see, there is some characteristic like a J-curve, initial productivity decline. It is also a unique characteristic, but a lot of people, they don't know. If you see the graph on the bottom, it looks like alphabet J. Right? So that means if we adopt AI in the initial stage, the productivity does not increase. Usually it stagnates or even decrease. And then after some time, it bounces back and then goes up. It is called a J-curve. And then it is a dilemma of AI adoption. So when we adopt AI, we have to understand these features. And then, of course, there are a lot of different issues and then concerns like minority report issue or ethics, right? But nowadays, we are experiencing a new version. Nowadays, I'm subscribing a lot of different AI, ChatGPT, Claude, and then Gemini. Also use DeepSeek and then Grok. And then nowadays, there is agent AI and then agent AI, right? So we don't need to do a lot of things by myself. I can ask ChatGPT or generative AI, and then they behave like humans. It's like my secretary. And then second topic is tech politics. Today's conference main theme, right? So for me, it is quite interesting because the United States is a very unique country. They have denied the industrial policy for a long time. So when we talk about industrial policy, usually United States, they said, oh, we believe the free wheels of free market, and then the market fundamental is important, and then the intervention of the central government should be minimized. It was their general, how can I say, the stance. But nowadays, even United States, they are talking about industrial policies back. And then before the COVID-19, even before the Donald Trump government, there was a kind of how can I say, the schools emphasizing, for example, innovation-based economic security. And then they said, even though United States government sponsored a lot of R&D funding, the benefits are used by other countries, even in China or so. So they argue that the United States have to monitor all the benefits, outputs of R&D activity, and then control the export of important material, technologies, or even patents. It was their stance. But think of this, the United States and then China can argue this, but including Korea, other countries cannot be argue the technology supremacy. So including Europe, Korea, a lot of countries, they are interested in new concept like technology sovereignty. Technology sovereignty is mainly suggested by the German scholars like Adler in Fraunhofer Institute. And then the definition is that the capability of a nation to secure access to essential technologies by developing them domestically or sourcing them across diverse domains to avoid unilateral dependency, thereby ensuring national prosperity and then competitiveness. So there are two options. So doing internalizations, by making all the technology levels by myself, or ensuring accessibility, right? That's the reason why the like-minded countries or alliances emphasized nowadays. But the problem is that if we see the United States and then China, the two big the countries, United States, they have advantages in digital platform, engineered biology, nuclear fusion, quantum computing. But China is leading battery, 5G, or commercial drones. But there is a competition area, between two. They are overlap, right? Contested areas, AI, and then next generation communication, and then smart manufacturing, etc. And then among them, AI is the most important field because it is an enabling technology, and then you can apply it in every domain, every industry. That's a problem. And then if we see the global competition all over the world, right? So according to the many different indexes, United States is consistently the number one, and then China is consistently number two. Mainly the UK are number 3 or 4, and then Korea is top 10, but not sure because our size. Actually, size does matter in this field. Right? And then let's see the China. What is happening in China? I think the speakers in the session 2 also talked this about. So I think my presentation can be a good linkage. So you look at the pictures on the bottom. What do you think? It looks like a resort or Everland or Disneyland or something, right? So the picture on your left corner, it looks like Britain, England, and then probably Spain or Italy in the middle, or the German castle on the right. But actually, this is an R&D center of Huawei in Dongguan, near Shenzhen. And then the size of each R&D campus is half of the Yeouido. And then there, 100,000 R&D personnel work there. And then they are spending 31.55 trillion Korean won, 31조 won. It's amazing money because this year, the government R&D budget is 35 trillion Korean won, 35. So one single company, Huawei, is spending just like entire Korean government. So it is surprising, right? And then most surprising point is that last year they opened the new second R&D campus in Shanghai. This is a landscape of Shanghai. There are more than 40,000 offices and then 100 cafes. Right? So think about these big, amazing sizes. And then if you go to Shenzhen, it is not surprising. You can receive your, food and then the coffees by drones. And then this year, the Chinese company Yihang will initiate unmanned air taxi service, just like a photo on your right corner, right? And then China is quite ambitious. They are making very well organized different national level plans, and then they do East data, West compute in Korean 동수서전 plan. So idea is they're using east side data and they're doing computer or data center in the west side, just like that. And then surprisingly, they are doing integration. This year they announced the AI plus strategy. So basically they are changing everything, financing, education, or manufacturing, or biology based on AI. So they are making the full stack, self-sustaining ecosystem, so-called chip-to-OS. So they are replacing NVIDIA's the GPU, and then they are replacing framework, they are replacing OS, and then they are replacing the applications. And then amazingly, they have the largest data. They are largest data producer in the world. They have a TikTok, they have a WeChat. They are generating huge data without regulation. So nowadays, their AI ecosystem is almost decoupled with United States. And then what we have to do, it's quite difficult because some government agencies, they are introducing so many different AI regulations. However, I believe that we have to think about the balance between regulation and innovation. And then personally, I think we have to focus on promotion in this situation. So recently, the Korean government announced this full-scale AI transformation strategy. So they selected 15 national flagship AI transformation projects, just like this one. And then they also announced that 7 AI plus X industrial flagship. But to be honest, compared to China, it's a very initial beginning step, just starting it. Also, the human talent and then data is important, and the public sector AI transformation is also a key agenda. And then the national fund, we are trying to make a national fund, but in terms of size, it's very tiny. The China is entirely pouring and then literally burning cashes for the AI development. And then also we are trying to build sovereign AI by selecting national team leaders, but we have to see what is going on because it's just on the beginning stage. And then also data center is also important, but we are just drawing a picture. A so-called AI highway must be built in a short time. Also, there is a good signs like NVIDIA supplied GPU, but let's see. Okay, so what's our aim? I think even though Korea announced a very ambitious plan to compete with China or to develop to achieve further technological advancement in the field of AI, I think there are a lot of agendas to be resolved in the near future. For example, first, AI policy or sovereign AI policy. Actually, it is different. Sovereign AI must focus on internalization or accessibility, but the general AI policy is different. You should think about the AI transformation or multilateral collaborations or so. So what is clear our policy directions? That's number one. Second one is R&D or ecosystem. So I cannot explain here in detail, but thinking about the China's approach, they are thinking about the ecosystem, not a single R&D. But in my perspective, the Korean government, they are very ambitious about R&D, but do not think, or how can I say, do not effectively promote ecosystem building. That's a problem. And the most serious problem is the balance between promotion and regulation. So there are many different Korean ministries. They are announcing regulation, and the National Assembly, as National Assembly members, they are announcing very strong regulation to regulate the AI. But we have to think about what is a proper balance. Last one is there AI governance? Can the president office can control the different ministry stakeholders? We have to think about what can be a very effective governance in the era of AI. Okay, so I think we can continue discuss these topics in the panel session. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, speakers, for your wonderful insights. Now we'll be moving into panel discussions where all the speakers from the session 1 would debate and also take questions from the audience about the issue of artificial intelligence and humanoid robots. Now I would like to invite all the guest speakers from session 1 to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your fantastic, inspirational talks, Dr. An, Dr. and John. Thank you. And we're back, and I would like to first preface with this that we are a little bit behind the schedule, so we're gonna keep this panel discussion to a 15-minute session. Hope you understand. My apologies. And I would like to first ask this question. So it seemed like there are some challenges in the field work when utilizing Hyodol, this entire system, and also your talk was really interesting, Dr. An, but at the same time, it was really thought-provoking because I started to feel like, oh, what can we do? What can we learn from the past and like past failures, and what are the lessons that we can learn so that in order to navigate this interesting time all together as an entire nation, what can we do? So my point is that what can we learn from these failures or limitations from your own work? And for example, when Dr. An's regulations, you come to like the regulation, innovation, the contrast, how can we apply that notion, whether it's even feasible to apply that approach in order to survive in this time? And Dr. John's care networks, when it breaks down, and what are the challenges, and how should policymakers, organizations, and technology developers build in resilience and learning capacity when regulatory experiments, setups, attempts don't work as intended? So what can we learn from the past, and how can we apply those lessons to navigate the future world? That'll be my question.
Okay, Okay, so it's a very tough question, and then actually we failed a lot, and then as we pointed out, learning from the failure is very important. I believe we should learn in the era of AI. It's quite difficult to say it's a failure, but our experience on the game industry, right? So even though there are many comparative Korean game companies in this country, but sadly, because of a lot of different regulations, they are doing businesses not in Korea but globally. Of course, it's good, but losing domestic market cannot be a good sign for the industry, obviously. Right? So thinking about the game, actually, the game was mainly organized by Ministry of Culture and Tourism, Sports. And then they approached, the bad effect on the children. So they introduced some kind of a shutdown regulation after 10 p.m. And then there are so many different regulations. So I'm not blaming this, but this approach is, viewing game not as an industry, but as a culture or things, right? So we have to see the multifaceted characteristics of an industry. Of course, I believe AI is especially so because it can be applied everywhere, right? So that's the reason why in the end of my presentation, the governance is very important, right? So because it's a very complicated, it has a multi-phases. So different perspectives should be embraced when we develop our policies.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure. From our study of the field study of the technologies in use, so we look at how technologies are actually used and introduced and practiced in our daily lives. So from our perspective, regulation is not anti-innovation. Regulation is how to ensure the innovation is done effectively and ethically. So we try, I mean, in the elder care system, for example, we cannot just say, oh, let's advance technology to the extreme, and then the other problems of care will be solved. It doesn't work like that, as I try to show in my presentation. We need to, yes, we have technology, that's great, but we need to understand the life of the elderly users, how they live, how they eat, how they spend their time, and how they are taken care of by the government welfare system, who are visiting them, how much time they spent with them, and what are the relationships, what are the problems in that welfare system. We need to understand all these policy environment, or the practice environment of care before we introduce these technologies into this welfare system. So regulation for me means how to make sure the innovation fits well within the existing systems of policy, practice, and even culture. So if we pay attention to all these policy and culture and norms and etc., then we can eventually make innovation actually work effectively and ethically. So that's how we see things, between innovation and regulation.
Thank you so much, Dr. John. I think there's a common thread here that it's essential to take into consideration multiple stakeholders and entire society, maybe global environment as a whole, and then it's not wise to just implement the technology right away, but we need a lot of pilot testing, like a sandbox system where we can test out different ideas. And I think these really links to one of the projects I've been recently involved. So I had a chance to analyze the interview data. The interview was done with NASA JPL operators who worked on Mars 2020 project, and also the US DARPA challenge, like the subterranean challenge. And then they were working with machines, robots, autonomous, with varying autonomy. And then we examined how trust evolves between human teammates in this human machine agent teams, and also how trust evolves between human and also human machine teammates. And what we found was that surprisingly, the machines, the robots that are used in this really high-end, high-stake mission projects, they're not as human-like yet. So it seemed trust toward them were determined by the humans behind the curtain, so to speak, who developed the program, who were operating the system and such. However, what I found interesting was that the trust between human and human teammates was rooted in the open communication and being able to feeling safe even when they sometimes fail and make mistakes, being able to communicate openly about their failures, and rather than shutting down the system or laying off that person, encouraging them to learn from those failures. I think that kind of spirit is really necessary as a whole. We need to listen to multiple stakeholders. I was thinking if the game industry listened to not just maybe parents or caregivers of children, maybe if they listened to more developers, maybe the trajectory could have changed. Maybe they didn't implement the overall a blanket system, regulatory strict regulation. Maybe they were more willing to be more flexible. So I think it's important to have, as a society, as culture, have open-mindedness, of being able to be human. We can fail sometimes because we're humans, and we can admit our mistakes, and then it's high-stake mission, of course, the AI, everything, but we should be able to trust each other. I think it'll be really nice to have kind of system, and instead of just talking about whether innovation is best or the regulation is the right way to go and such. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. And let's move on to the next question. Hopefully we can cover one more question, and then get questions from the audience. And where's the question? Okay. So, is there something distinctively Korean about how these AI-related policies and technology development play out? So, broadly speaking, should Korean policymakers view these cases as, we just talked about, as building blocks for globally competitive innovation systems, or do they reveal governance challenges that are specific to Korea's socio-technical context? So, the gist is that what's the uniqueness of Korean environment, society, policy, climate, and what would be the best way to utilize our advantages, strengths in order to survive in this era?
So it's also a tough question. But thinking about the Korean unique characteristics, I believe it is quite interesting because for a couple of years ago, when the fourth industrial revolution was dominated our newspapers, the Korea was the most sensitive country in the world. And then other countries also were very curious about that. And then we found that the Korean people were very sensitive about the job replacement by AI. That's the reason why I believe. So I think that is linked to the nowadays AI regulation atmosphere. So we benchmarked a lot of top European regulation like GDPR or AI Act or something. But we have to think about why the European country introduced so strong regulation. Because the dominant company, global leading companies like Google, Meta, Amazon, they are United States. So because they are not the European company, they want to protect their market from the US. So they are building strong regulation. So there's no reason why we benchmark the European regulation. We have to find a different approach. Because we have a neighbor, we have a Kakao, we have many AI startups. So don't need to just to mimic or imitate the European regulation. So that is my point. And then our strong point is we are very strong in R&D, and then we are very efficient, so we achieve a lot of things in a short time, very efficient people. So even though we are a little behind, like ACE or Tax Global, I believe if we focus on, and then as you saw, we collaborate with many different stakeholders with little conflict, then I believe we can achieve great competitiveness in this field.
Thank you.
So what's Korean about these care robots that I showed you today? Part of it is very Korean because it's the name itself. I mean, Hyo. It relies on our cultural expectation that a grandchild or grandchildren should be cute and they should be entertaining to their grandparents and pay respect to their grandparents, etc. So it relies very much on our cultural ideas about how to take care of the elderly and etc. And the parents-kids relationship and etc. That's why it's figured as a kind of young grandchild. So in that sense, this technology it's very advanced, but it is also very cultural. Technology is always, almost always cultural, in my view. So then, what happens when people in other countries, developers in other countries, try to develop similar robots for their own elderly population? Then applying the Korean model directly to other social and cultural contexts may not work because they have different expectations about the relationship between child and parents. They have different cultural expectations about the robots and the cuteness of the robots. So they may have they feel differently about this childlike robot. And then also we need to also think about these different national systems of care and welfare. The Hyodo works relatively well with the existing Korean welfare system because they do a lot of work to make that fit. But other countries, of course, have different styles, different systems of elderly care, and then the different health care, and then different kinds of budgets. So they will have to consider all these differences of context and systems when they try to develop this technology that can work within those contexts.
Thank you so much. I think so. I think we all can agree that Korea has historically been a very fast innovator, and this is how we have made economic growth and what we're cherishing as a society, the values. Thank you. And I was wondering, I think overall, both the speakers, Dr. and Dr. John, were suggesting that it's essential for us to come up with our own way of regulatory system, like with caution, right? So I would love to talk to you both and everyone all about like, what would be that concrete plan for us? How can we design a system as an entire society to continue these discourses, and actually have like entire infrastructure that really incentivize these discussions overall, and listening to multiple stakeholders and different experts from diverse disciplines. So I would like to end with that hope, actually, my personal wish, and also good luck Korea and everyone. And thank you so much. And do we have time to take one quick question from the audience by any chance? I can't see, sorry. Do you have 5 minutes, or we don't have any time left? Sorry. 2 minutes? Yeah, maybe we can take one question from the audience group or from Mentimeter. If not, you can email us anytime. You can find us in that booklet that you just got, okay? Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you.